Hello and welcome to 06880, the podcast. My guest today is Bill Taibe, well-known restaurateur. Bill's passion for food began with an after-school job in a butcher shop. He advanced quickly from sous chef to executive chef, soon helped develop, design, and run many successful restaurants in Fairfield County, including Napa and Company and Relish. Bill opened La Farm, his first venture in Westport, in 2009. He soon added the Whelk, known for its seafood and oyster bar, and Kawa Ni, with Japanese influences. And last summer, Bill opened Don Memo, inspired by Mexican cuisine and culture. Bill's most recent venture is the Art Space Cafe in Norwalk, which highlights Connecticut culinary artisans. Bill has been on the Today Show, the Martha Stewart Show, and Movable Feast. He supports many local charities, sits on the board of the Connecticut Restaurant Association, and is president of the Westport Farmers Market. So,
hi.
Good to have you. Where'd you eat last night, and what did you have?
What did I eat we were actually at a friend's, oddly enough. I was at Kawa Ni last night. But we were at a friend's during the day for a pool party. And then Rachel, my wife, her cousin, had a wedding shower, if you would, last night at Kawa Ni. So I actually think I came home and had a bowl of cereal after all of it, because I typically don't eat at my own restaurants. But that was yesterday.
So what draws some people to food, and other people it's just, I'll eat whatever you put in front of me?
Yeah, that's a big opening question, Dan. What leads people to food? Well, I think professionally it's a passion, but right, we know that there's people that eat to live and then live to eat, right? So, food is sort of like it's a binder between many of us, right? It's typically what we focus on for holidays and brings people together for gatherings. And I just think I have friends on both sides of the aisle that, some really love and they call themselves foodies with, air quotes. And that is, those are the people that are really interested in what they eat, but also knowing what's new and sort of what's coming in food and sort of the service industry. And then you have some folks that are happy just eating, some grilled chicken and white rice. I have two sons, and one of them eats only white food, and the other one will venture out a little more. So I have that experience in my house. What makes them tick, I'm not quite sure. Yeah. But we always appreciate both of them. The challenge is there.
So what does it take to open a restaurant? What are the qualities that a restaurateur needs?
Man, you got to be thick-skinned. I think you got to be a little crazy. Those are kind of the funny things, but it's what I do, right? So I don't know why, but since I was a young kid, food kind of made sense to me. I always had a knack for sort of creating an environment that people wanted to hang out in, whether we were, kids and we'd build forts, or as we got older and I would throw parties, and then into college when I went to culinary school, and we'd have friends over and we'd always sort of like curate our entertainment. I think you have to understand what makes people happy. It's the restaurant business, as much as people want to think that it's ego-driven, it never has anything to do with me or what I like. I'm really focusing on the masses and how to make as many people happy as possible. So, I think there's an extreme sense of passion that's needed. I have plenty of conversations with folks who have lots of money that, their dream is to open a restaurant. And I always say to them, I can make you a lot of money. And they would say, how? And I said, well, you pay me $50,000 and I'm going to talk you out of opening a restaurant. And that's going to save you close to $1 million. So think about that if you flip it. It's not for everybody and it's not as easy as it looks. But I just think, you have to have an understanding for how to put a group of people together in space and just make them forget about whatever it is they're trying to release or forget about, right? So that people come to restaurants because they're looking for an opportunity to just kind of unwind and spend time with their family. So, I don't know if that's the answer, but to me, it just kind of makes sense. It's a special trait, and it either works or it doesn't. And
you've always had that? I mean, growing up, you had that sense of what what it means to bring people together?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a leadership quality in it. I always appreciate. It's funny because I'm a slightly sociophobic person. I much prefer to be home, sitting with my dogs and my wife and my kids, than be out in the center of public. So here I am sort of the party creator, if you would, right, in town. So I have these restaurants, and I spend all my time and energy and creativity trying to create the best experience possible for our community. It's really important to me that when you come to my restaurant, you enjoy. Once I know that that's all figured out, I just want to be home. Like I for anybody that spent time in my restaurants, never will you ever really see me dancing around the dining room shaking hands. And that's not because I'm not interested in saying hi. It's because that's not what I'm there for. You didn't come to see me. And I just, I'm not necessarily a showman. I like putting the party together and then stepping back and watching people enjoy. I get a real charge, and I get a real sense of excitement and accomplishment when I see people enjoying themselves in something that I created.
Wow. So walk us through this process of creation. When you design and create a restaurant, what are the different elements? What's the time frame? How do you do it?
Yeah, it's it's quite a juggling act. So, what we would do is we typically identify a space first. That's how I do it. I've never gone into it wanting to create a concept and then go look for a space. So I would typically find spaces, and in most cases, they're presented to us. I've always found that the ones that we're kind of, that we find ourselves in now, that we're leasing and have been involved with, these are ones that have been presented to us, and you just kind of feel that they're right. I've spent a lot of time going throughout other towns and other cities, looking at locations that have been recommended to me, and obviously I haven't left the area, so I just know when the space is right, and that's most important. So does the space feel good? And then once we get into the space, we kind of create what we think we're going to do. What fits the room? What am I thinking at the moment? All of our restaurants were sort of created at that particular time, and that's what I was interested in. So, when I first came into Westport, I opened La Farm because I was coming out of Napa and Company. Napa and Company was doing 350 dinners a night. I felt like it was all about numbers and budgets and just volume. And I really wanted to get back to cooking. I wanted to spend more time on sourcing, relationships with our food and our artisans and my cooks. So I went north. I found a great space in Westport, in the Colonial Green Shopping Center, and I went back to cooking. Small little tiny spot. The Whelk was presented to us by Sam Galt and some of his folks, and they were looking to sort of revitalize Saugatuck. And at the time when we opened the Whelk, and I brought my partner Massimo Tullio in, Massimo was coming out of Fat Cat. We were opening a wine bar, which was kind of funny. And a couple weeks into building we didn't have a name for the Whelk, but a couple weeks into building the space out, I came to Massimo and I'm like, I don't really want to do a wine bar. It's kind of boring. Like, why don't we do an oyster bar? And right in the middle of build out, we just pivoted and we kind of changed the light fixtures and we built the Whelk. The Whelk wasn't named. I think the Whelk was open for about 2 weeks before it even had a name because we just pivoted so quickly. So again, gut instinct told me that my first thought wasn't right, but we pivoted and evolved. And then Kawa Ni, we kind of fell into the space. I just always loved that little location, and it was an old Chinese takeout restaurant. And when they went out of business, called up a broker, and it just happened to be the right deal at the right time, and we opened Kawa Ni. So, down the line, it just always seems to be how we feel about it. And then as you go through the process, there's a lot of organizing. It's a lot of scheduling, and but identify your concept, and then you start working with your builders in the town and so on and so forth. And it all kind of comes together, especially in a town like Westport. The community is so supportive that it is a little bit easier to do it. There's a lot of people that are willing to sort of lend a hand and give advice on how to maybe get through some barriers that have presented themselves.
So what's, when you're doing all this, what are some things that I, as a diner, would never know that you do or have to worry about?
Right. Oh my God. Well, it's when we're building the restaurant or just running a restaurant in general?
Both.
Yeah. So, I think, most of my energy now in our company is served during the day, right? So if it was 5 years ago, My day started at 10 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock in the morning, and would end at midnight, right? And that was for the majority of my adult life. It would just be a long day, but I would focus mainly on HR and food, and really not allowing the minutia, the little detail, the little bothersome details really get to me, because I needed to create food and I needed to create environments. As time has gone over the last couple of years, I've really stepped back and looked to develop the company a little bit. But I mean, just a day in the restaurant is, which walk-in is not, when we came into work, which walk-in was off, and how much product did we lose? Which refrigerator didn't work? Is the water are we not getting hot water at 7 o'clock at Don Memo on a Saturday night, and why? It's constant. It is constant, the maintenance to run a restaurant. The conversations we have with our staff, we have a good eclectic group of people, but in particular, it's a hard job. So kitchen staff, as we all know, livable wage issues we have. So working really hard to try to figure out how to make it so our staff can support themselves, but also pull them through really tough situations. I mean, working at Don Memo or the Whelk in July on a Friday or Saturday night is not an easy job. It's really, really busy. It's really, really hot. It's a demanding environment. And at the end of the day, what's the reward other than your paycheck, which we all know, is sort of below the standard, so to speak. So, and keeping the industry moving, I think, it's a constant juggling act to keep people inspired. This all started with me a few years ago in Westport, having 6 total employees at La Farm, and we came in every day and we worked really, really hard. I think, we have 85 to 90 employees now. So every day there's something else that could be happening just to a person that we have to deal with. And we're very hands-on, and we want to make sure that we kind of touch everybody. I say it all the time, especially to our younger cooks and chefs. It's important that I know you're being heard. We want to fix it. I'm looking to step away from the service part of restaurants as much. I've been doing it for 27 years of my life, and I'd like to not have to go into and work a service on a Thursday night if possible, be home with my family. But I also need to make sure that the people I have doing that are healthy and competent and prepared and understand how to deal with some of the issues that are going to come their way. So it's just a constant ball of wax that never looks the same.
The kitchen share program.
Yeah.
Which you started for employees, right?
Yeah.
3% surcharge on all food sales goes directly to all kitchen employees. Is that something?
Yeah, we've actually even gone a step further. We're now at 20%. I've a limit. So we started the 3% a few years ago. And that was something that we worked about a year on, our management team. It was important to me to figure out, again, being a chef first, before anything else in this industry, I'm a chef. And it's what I do. So it was really important to me to find a way to make it so our kitchen staff could just, they can make a little more money. A cook typically makes anywhere between $14 and $16 an hour as a line cook. It's not a lot of money. Especially around here. It may be in some other parts of the country, but here it's not. But the reality is, this is how our restaurants are built for budgets, right? So we have budgetary restrictions. We need to follow guidelines. I have investors. I have people that I need to report to. So we have to keep everything in line based on sales. The hardest part, and it all kind of ties together, is, people don't realize that when I was the chef of Wildfire in Greenwich 20 years ago, my halibut dish was $36. My halibut dish at the Whelk is $36. It hasn't gone up. My costs have gone up. My rent has gone up. Overhead expenses have gone up. Food for sure has gone up. Labor is going up, but we can't charge any more than we were 20 years ago for whatever reason. It's just, we hit sort of a number that people were comfortable with, and we've never really been able to go beyond it. And the reality is, how much can you possibly spend when you go out to dinner for a piece of fish? So I understand it. So what I'm trying to do, and what we've been trying to do, is sort of reallocate our funds as they come into the restaurant, and by really relying on our customer to help us with that. If you're going to leave a tip anyway, it's better if I own that tip, and then I could give it to the people that I think are most deserving. So we had taken the 3%, put it on the bottom of the check, and when I finally dove into it, I just made the decision that if you could afford to have $100 worth of food at my restaurant, you can afford $3 more. That's pretty much what it came out to. So, and that money went directly to the cooks. As the pandemic hit and restaurants went to a takeout only model, we started to realize the gratuities that were coming in were tremendous. And that's because we're in this unbelievable town of people that were doing anything they can to protect our brand and to make sure that I think we came out of this with them and we can survive. So they were being so generous and giving all this money, but legally I can't do anything with that money. That money has to go to the front of house staff if it's given as a tip, as a gratuity. So what we did was we thought about it and we decided to just add a 20% gratuity to everything, which means I own it now. It's a service charge. It's a taxable income to me. And now I can reallocate that money. So, and we have people now. So if you go into the Whelk, there'll be a 20% charge at the bottom of your check. That money, without getting into the deep detail of it and boring you, but essentially 17% of it goes to the back, to the front of the house. 3% goes to the kitchen still. So they're making the same money. We've also moved all of our employees front of the house to a non-tipped minimum wage. So where servers would typically make $8.35 or whatever it may be at this point, they're all making at minimum $12 an hour minimum wage. So their hourly wage increases and they're still getting their tips. And there's also a line item on the bottom that allows for additional gratuity, which to me is sort of a good way when you would think, well, what's the motivation or the incentive for the staff to work hard and give good service if they're automatically getting a tip? Well, there's an additional line. And in most cases, you'll see it. People will leave a couple extra bucks because they really like their server and the conversations they're having with the servers about how is the money distributed. So it's not a perfect solution, but it's pretty close. And I think we're going to stick with it. We like it. We've lost really good servers because of it that have been in the industry for years that just don't get it. But it's transparent as far as I'm concerned. The books are there. We tell everyone you could read, see what you should be making, what the other guy made. And we're really hoping that we could get people to work with us on it because I think it's the way we need to move forward.
So are you an outlier, or is this something that you think the industry will adopt?
Well, I know when we had put the 3% together, I had some friends in the industry that had taken it on out in Westchester and through Fairfield County, and a few people had thrown it at the bottom of their menus, and few had success. Some others didn't have the same success we have. I've now seen it throughout the country. 3%, the 20%. Is just a bigger take, right? It's a taxable income. So now it's I have to think about this as well. So I think if we're sitting here and we're worrying and trying to figure out why the industry is in trouble, quote unquote, and we want to blame it on stimulus checks, which I don't think is the reason why people are not coming back to work. They're not coming back to work because it's just not a great job. And so we're working really hard on how to make it a good job where you could actually make a livable wage. And be proud of what you do, because again, if you get into food and cooking, it's because you want to do it. You typically don't get forced into it. If you're a front of the house server, in some cases, it's an in-between job for something else. We also have a lot of folks that this is their profession. They want to be restaurant managers. But for the transient folks, it's a good way to make some money. But for my cooks, these are people that have committed themselves to it. They either went to culinary school or they've taken very low-paying jobs to work up the ladder. We need to find a way to just make that an acceptable way to live. And I think by, again, reorganizing and redistributing how the gratuity is given in a restaurant is a good start. I think that's where the money's coming from, because unless you're going to let me charge $45 for halibut, I had no other option.
So you started in a butcher shop.
Mm-hmm.
My first job was cooking hamburgers at Chubby Lane's, the first $1 hamburger place in Westport. Are kids going into restaurant industry?
This year gave me hope. So as I said before, that I think we've all read the headlines that the restaurant industry is in trouble. Going into the pandemic, it was all about the restaurant industry. And I thought it was a great opportunity for the industry to sort of reconfigure and just pause and figure out how to change what's wrong with our industry. It's obviously flawed. When it came to staffing, people weren't coming back to work because they were getting some unemployment. And there was, obviously safety concerns and whatever it may be. But I think the unemployment stimulus allowed people to think twice whether or not this is what they really wanted to do. Well, we've had to fill those roles with younger people, Staples High School students, kids coming back from college for the summer. And we really, and we're very fortunate to be in the area we are, that we do have this just sort of a good inventory, if you would, of college kids coming back that always want to come and work with us. Hostesses and, dishwashers or prep cooks, whatever it may be. We really made it a point this year to just focus our attention to those folks, knowing that we'd only have them for a short time. But instead of getting into an argument with sort of some of our older servers that didn't want to come back to work and begging and pleading and, paying outrageous rates that we couldn't afford anyway, we said, you know what, we're going to focus our attention to the people that want to come to work, and we'll put our energy into them. And that's what we've done this year. Now we're going to lose a handful of them off to college, but I think we've created really good relationships. We've given them good experiences. And it's also been a good experience for us to try to, to figure out how to offer the same service standards that we expect of ourselves, and I think our customers do, but with people less experienced in doing it. It's not easy, but, if you teach a young kid, a college kid, and say, listen, at the end of the day, the most important thing is you smile and you look like you're excited and you give people a really good, give them good service. And if you make a mistake, just say, I'm sorry. And that's usually what happens when you get to a restaurant. If there's a mistake, it's the avoidance of the mistake that makes everyone anxious. And we just say, if you make a mistake, just apologize. It's probably one of your friends, parents or something anyway. So yeah. It's been it's been an interesting summer, but youth, the younger generation, has helped us. Now, do I think going forward, young cooks are getting into the industry? I don't know. It's hard to tell. They're there whenever you think that we're running out of time and opportunity to fill a spot. Somebody shows up. I just don't know if the industry itself, though, has the same the same desires there to get into it was 15 years ago when Emma Lagasse and Mario Batali were bamming and powing everything, and everybody thought they were going on TV. Reality has set in. The industry we'll figure it out. It's what we do. We're resilient people and we're creative, and we just have to find new ways to give you a good experience. Yeah. It's my only option.
You don't have any other.
I don't have anything else.
And it's interesting. I mean, you always hear that every young person at one point in his or her life should work in the service industry and learn what it's like to be on the other side.
Yeah, it's a real humbling experience, and I do recommend it, and I don't know if we've lost that or not, but hopefully, I think we'll be okay. I think the industry will survive this.
Cool. So let's talk about Westport's dining scene.
Yeah.
For a long time, Westport was compared unfavorably to Fairfield. Fairfield had all the hot spots,
Yeah.
and we were dead. How would you characterize Westport's dining scene now?
Best in Fairfield County, maybe Connecticut. The Westport dining scene starts with the Westport Farmers Market. And the reason I say that is to see the support of the town at the Westport Farmers Market and how important the Farmers Market is, not only to local Westport restaurants, but to the industry throughout Fairfield County, shows you that this is the hub of our region for food, Westport. People are intelligent here. They're well-traveled. They're demanding in a very good way and I explain that to our staff that, yes, the people in Westport and Weston and our surrounding areas are extremely demanding and they have high expectations, but those are the expectations we want to live up to anyway. I'd be terrified if people would accept anything less than greatness from us. Westport, 12 years ago when we had come into town, I was told numerous times by friends in the industry to stay away from Westport. The people are cheap, they're picky, they're never happy. Look at everything goes out of business. And I started to think to myself, so when I started to look into it, being concerned whether or not people were going to like the food and what I was serving was not a concern of mine. I knew that I was cooking food at a high level at the time, and that if I found the right place wherever I was, they were going to like it. I just needed to find a place that we had, the community was right. I had similar views. And when I spoke to Michel Nishan, who had the dressing room at the time, and I spoke to him and I said, Chef, I'm being told not to come here. What do you think? And he said, Bill, listen, if you look around, the places that don't make it typically shouldn't. But at the time, we had Mario's down at the train station, had been open for 500 years. Tarantino's, Via Sforza. There were restaurants that were here that had really become part of the community, and and that gave me the confidence to say, well, obviously the ones that go to business just don't deserve to be here. But there's some long-standing relationships in this town with their restaurants. And once we got in, and it only took a few weeks for me to realize that I was in the right place when we opened La Farm, it just, there's something different about this town, and I'm thankful that I'm here. I think to myself, and I've said this, I have friends that are much more talented than I am throughout the state of Connecticut and in New York that weren't as successful through the pandemic as we were. And I could only attribute that to the town we're in. It just the support we got from the people here in Weston and Westport and the surrounding areas, just it got us through a very difficult time, and they continue to show up. And I don't know, what makes it better? I'm not quite sure. I just think that people Westporters love their town, and I think it's exciting. It's an exciting time to be in Westport. Downtown looks different. There's energy here. So, yeah, we are easily the best town.
You opened a restaurant during the pandemic. You opened Don Memo during the pandemic. Hudson Malone, Manitoast, Capuli, Basso, they all opened when people were being told not to go to restaurants.
Yeah.
Are you guys crazy or what?
Well, I know with Doug over at Hudson Malone, I think that plan was put in place way before pandemic had hit, so he was kind of stuck, and thankfully he did, because I love Hudson Malone, Rachel and myself, we go a good amount. I think same with Manna, Dave Waldman, who and his, and Stacy, the Waldman family, who have some connections to Manna. I think they have a lot of confidence in this town, and they knew what the town needed. As for Don Memo, we were Jessup Hall, and I've always say the very quick version of it, I hated Jessup Hall when I first opened it. It just wasn't right. It was wrong. Everything about it was wrong. It was sort of a forced concept. Everyone wanted La Farm. I was like, I'll come back. And then it just didn't feel right to me, because I didn't, I moved on from La Farm because it, like I said earlier, it wasn't who I was at the time. And I forced in Jessup, and it took me some time to get it to where I wanted. And we started to really cruise right before pandemic hit. I felt Jessup was at its best, and I was really happy with it. And then pandemic hit, and we took all of that hard work and this cuisine we had created at Jessup that I thought was some of the best in the state, and then we were taking the food and putting it in brown boxes. And it just broke me down. It just took so much energy to get to the point of where I felt comfortable with the concept to then see it go in a brown box. And I thought to myself, I saw the success of Kawa Ni and that type of food traveling, and I just... there was a few reasons why we pivoted from Jessup to Don Memo, but like I said, it was the food going into go boxes. And then I also thought to myself, we're in the middle of this pandemic. Everybody's sitting at home. We have everybody's eyes and attention, right? Everyone's watching social media, waiting for something. What better way to sort of introduce a new concept, but to have the town really focus on what we're doing? The support was through the roof. And I needed something exciting and different. I think internally throughout the restaurant industry and our staff, everybody was a little nervous and worried. So what better way to shift the energy than to create a new concept? So we'd done it, and everyone thought I was crazy. I was prepared for it. I knew that if it was done well, it was going to be a success, just for those reasons. It just was needed at the time. And we did it, and it's been great ever since. Yeah, I can't imagine if I didn't change it. My biggest regret is I didn't open Don Memo 5 years ago.
Wow.
But, yeah.
But you're right. There is this energy between Don Memo, Walrus Alley next door,
Yep.
Capuli across the street,
Yep.
Basso in the back.
Yeah.
There's and then you got Finalmente and Giratai, and
It's fantastic. Downtown Westport is back. For anybody that said, over the last couple of years that it was missing something, it's back. That's a lot to do with the DMA, or now the Downtown Association, which I'm on the board with, but with Randy. The energy put into downtown Westport through that organization is is unreal, and I'm proud to be a part of it. The pandemic, if we can imagine, which is so funny, I think also sort of kickstarted downtown Westport. It forced us to stop fighting and bickering about, should we cut streets down or shut streets down? Can we have outdoor dining? Could we hang lights? All these silly things that could never get through, get past. Here we are, out of necessity, out of just needing to create an outdoor environment for our community. This stuff was sped through the process, and here we are, and I think it's to stay. It makes sense, right, that we want people outside, a very European way of entertaining, right? Be outside, enjoy the open air, throw some live music around, and throw some tables outside, and what do you get? You get people sitting outside, and your community is alive. So it took a pandemic for us to learn that, but thankfully, I think it helped.
Great. Just a couple more quick ones. You mentioned Hudson Malone. At the risk of being controversial, what are some of your favorite restaurants that are not your own?
Oh, man. No, not controversial at all. So there's a really great restaurant at Darien, L'Hostal, that just opened. Reminds me so much of La Farm when I first opened it, even a little bit of Relish, my restaurant in South Norwalk. It's just, there's a great chef, and forgive me because I don't know his name. I met him briefly the other day. He's got his head down and he's cooking hard. But L'Hostal in Darien is fantastic. I've been there 3 times now. The curation of the wine is unbelievable. The food is perfect. You read the menu and you're like, wow, this is really simple. What am I going to do here? It's a green salad, some fresh pastas. It's all so perfectly prepared. It kind of melts my heart. I love Oko. I've been going down to Greenwich a good amount, though, for kaseki, really good sushi. My wife and myself, we enjoy sushi when we can. I love Pho Nan Trang is up in Black Rock for really good pho. Still say pho, guys, I'm sorry, but really good pho at Pho Nan Trang. There's some really good spaces locally, I think we're not short for good food in this area. Had breakfast at Valencia last week, which I haven't been in a while, and really great chilaquiles and, good papitas. So that's just a short list of them. I love Elm in New Canaan. I could go on and on and on. Yeah.
So what is the next cuisine for you that you haven't opened yet? Yeah.
So I think right now, today, and I change a lot, but we're really looking at fast casual concepts. I think what we're trying to do is figure out how do we deal with some of the problems we've had in the industry, which I think is staffing, which, right, is a reality, in particular front of the house staffing, service staffing. I think that's continuously going to be an issue. I do believe in the inspiration of food, so I do believe that cooks are going to continue to sort of jump into this industry, because there's just no way to not do it. Like, if I had my choice, sure, would I get into finance or cooking? Finance, but something drew me to cooking, so here I am, hindsight. But so we're looking at fast casual concepts. I want to figure out a way to get you really good food for you and your family, hit all generations, if you would, all age groups, affordable, but just take away the pretension of a restaurant, right? So, and Westport, and some people may beg to differ. I think we're having more success now, but I always joke that Westport's like the town that somehow put Chipotle out of business. Like, we're not really into fast casual food here. So I think the Five Guys here in Westport, is one of the lowest grossing Five Guys. And then you hit the one in Norwalk that's like 3 miles away over the border, is one of the highest grossing Five Guys. It's unbelievable, So, but I have faith because I'm seeing Organic Crush is having some success now. Little Beat just came in. So we're looking to take our experiences in our food and our attention to detail and find a way to lessen the service model, but still, still give you that same experience. So that's kind of what we're focusing our attention now. And, I just opened a coffee shop, a cafe in Norwalk, and that's a really great model that I'm really interested in. I don't know, short of like a Starbucks, how financially sustainable coffee and sandwiches are. It's very different in terms of revenue, but I love the concept. I love the space. And I love how different it is from what we're used to. The 9 to 4 as opposed to serving dinner time with alcohol, getting home late. I love it. We're getting people in the beginning of their day, in the middle of their day, as opposed to the end of their day. And it's fun, just the psychology to see how different people are. So, we're keeping busy.
So you just need somebody to come with a space now.
Yeah, exactly. Find a good space.
I started with asking you what you had for dinner last night. So I'll end with what's for dinner tonight.
Yeah, tonight I'm actually excited. We're going to go to Nod Hill Brewery up in Ridgefield on Route 7. Really great beer brewers that you'll find them at all of our restaurants. They're having a little service, an industry night tonight. They just opened a beer garden. So there's a little industry night tonight from 5:30 to 7:30, I think. And they've invited a group of us, folks throughout the restaurant industry and the beverage industry, and we're all going to get together and celebrate their new beer garden opening. I'm sure I think Green Grunion, the food truck, the burrito food truck, is doing the food tonight, so I'm sure I'll have a burrito and a couple beers at Nod Hill and go home, hopefully watch the Yankee game and wake up. Tomorrow will be Tuesday, and we'll start the week.
What a great life.
Yeah,
what a
not
great
bad.
life. Bill Taibe, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with the 06880 podcast audience. Learned a lot, and now I'm hungry.
Great. Thanks, Dan. Pleasure.
Thank you.